Preview. Preview.
What if I told you that we all go through adoption as Christians? That we, as Christians, have a form of adoption in our lives that we all need to go through. So, to go through this, I want to show you guys a passage in 2 Samuel 9. So it should be behind me, hopefully. But if not, you can go ahead and turn your Bibles on your phones, all that good stuff. Cool? Okay, 2 Samuel 9, the whole passage. I know. So David said, "Is there anyone still left in the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David, and the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" At your service," he said. The king asked, "Is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show God's kindness?" Ziba answered the king, "There is still a son, Jonathan. He is lame in both feet." "Where is he?" the king asked. Ziba asked, Ziba answered, "He is at the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lo-Debar." I know, weird stuff. So King David had him brought from Lo-Debar, from the house of Machir, son of So when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay honor. David said, "Mephibosheth, at your service," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him, "for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." Mephibosheth bowed down to him. "What is your servant, that you should notice a dead dog like me?" Then the king summoned Ziba, Saul's steward, and said to him, "I have given your master's grandson everything that belonged to Saul and his family. You and your sons and your servants are to farm the land for him and bring in the crops, so that your master's grandson may be provided for. And Mephibosheth, grandson of your master, you will always eat at my table." Then Ziba said to the king, "Your servant will do whatever my lord, the king, commands his servant to do." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son named Micah, and all the members of Ziba's household were servants of Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem because he always ate at the king's table. He was lame in both feet. Go ahead and bow your heads. I'm going to go ahead and pray real quick. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for tonight, Lord. I thank you for this opportunity that you have given me to preach here tonight, Lord. I pray that you calm my nerves and that you speak through me tonight, Lord, and that you just work in this service, Lord. And you're in the name. So, that's kind of interesting. That's a lot of confusing stuff, though. So let me break that down just a little bit for you real quick. So if you don't know, Mephibosheth was the son of Jonathan, who's the son of Saul. And Saul was the king of Israel before King David. So he was kind of enemies with King David. So you would think, naturally, David wouldn't like Mephibosheth. But David was best friends with Jonathan, his dad. And they loved each other like best friends. And they made a covenant while Jonathan was still alive. And because of that covenant, David decided that I'm going to go find some of his family and bring him to stay at the castle and eat at my table, or at his table. And so because of that, I'm going to go ahead and go into my first point. Adoption to God's family creates relationships. You see, before this, it's clear because he had to ask Ziba, the servant, if Mephibosheth, or if there was anyone still in Saul's household, that there was no relationship between Mephibosheth and him. He didn't know either that he was still alive or that he even was existed. So there was nothing in between them that they even knew each other. So that David had to seek that relationship out with Mephibosheth. So it's clear once Mephibosheth accepted that offer to come to the castle, the relationship was formed. And by the end of that, he was sitting at the son's house, or the son's table with the king. That means not only that there was a relationship with him and David, but there was relationships with him and the rest of the king's sons. That happens today still. God seeks us out, and we have to accept that offer and go to him. But not only is there a major and important relationship that's formed from that, between us and God, but we have this, fellowship in Christ, the relationships between you and I, between each other. I think this is so important in our lives today because we don't focus on that enough. We just go to church to go to church. We don't notice the fact that we're there because of our relationship with God and because we can be in fellowship with each other. Mephibosheth had, or not only that, sorry, Ziba also, who was Saul's servant, also became the servant of Mephibosheth. And all of the things that happened to Mephibosheth all of Saul's things, like all of his money, or not his money, his land and stuff, was restored to Mephibosheth because of this. And I want to go ahead and go into my second point now. Adoption to God's family gives new life. So before that, it was clear, if you don't know, he was lame in both feet. You don't know why that happened. When Jonathan died, they had to escape, the family of Saul and his family of Jonathan. And while that was happening, Mephibosheth ran, or while they were running, he fell. And scholars say that he became lame in both his feet because of that. So because of this, he was an outcast. He lived off somewhere else, lived in Lodabar, wherever that is. But whenever he accepted this offer to come back to the castle, to come back to Jerusalem, he accepted the offer of a new life. And that happens today too. We're dead in our sin. We're outcasts from God. But whenever we accept his offer, when we accept that he seeks us, we get a new life. New relationships are formed from that. Nervous, right?
Not
You're
great.
great.
Dude, you're doing really good, bro.
Man, this is crazy though, isn't it? My brain really is fried from the pre-SAT. It's kind of scary. I lost all the stuff I was thinking about earlier. Okay, well, let's go back into it. New life from God, new life from David. Isn't that really cool? So, like I was saying, you have to accept the offer from God, just like Mephibosheth had to do from David. And because of that, we get a new life. We get new relationships. And I know I really went really fast through those first 2 points. But that was for a reason, I'm not gonna lie. It's my third point. And I think it's very important in our lives today that we focus on this more. So, adoption to God's family breaks barriers. And I want to read a passage real quick that will kind of help us think about that. Real quick, yeah. So Romans 8:14-17. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. The Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Rather, the Spirit you received brought you your adoption to sonship. And by him we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are children of God. Now we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings in order that we may also share in his glory. Now you're probably thinking, breaking barriers. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But think about that. Saul was David's enemy. Saul hated David. So you think there should be a huge barrier between David and Mephibosheth. But because of this, they broke the barriers. There's nothing there between them, no divisions. The same thing needs to happen now. There's so many divisions, not only in the church, but in the world around us, that we are ignoring, that we need to focus on more.
That's good.
Have you seen what's going on in the world now? These past few months, how crazy it's been? They say that they can be barriers in between us because I'm a different race than you, or that you're a different gender from someone else. There's a barrier there. We need to break that. You're probably thinking, how am I supposed to break that barrier? Sure, I can break the barriers between me and everyone else around me, but how am I supposed to do that for everyone else? You can't. God can. But you know what you can do? You can be the light, and you can be the salt of the earth. You can point them to God so that he can break those barriers. Because you're not going to be able to do it. You may be able to, God may be able to work through you to break those barriers in between you and the people next to you. But you're not going to do anything for the people around you unless God works through you.
Yeah. Good.
It's crazy what's going on in the world these days. They can go out and say that we're different. And we are different. God made us with differences. He made us uniquely. But that's not enough for there to be a barrier between us. You want me to tell you why there's a barrier between us? Because the devil creates that. That's bad. I don't know if you know that. The devil's pretty bad. But God can break those barriers. God can do that in our lives. And God can do that in the lives of the people around us. God can do that through us. You know what we have to do? We have to accept his offer. Just like Mephibosheth had to accept David's offer, come back to Jerusalem, come back into the family of the king, and to accept all the adoption, or become adopted into the family of the king again. Once we're adopted into the family of God, there's nothing we can't do because God works through us.
That's good. That's good.
Nothing can stop us because nothing can stop God. And when God's on your side, you're fine. As long as your heart is aligned with God, you're good. So I know I'm fast. It was fast. But I'm going to go ahead and go into them. I don't know if you guys throw music on or something.
Last
Yeah,
line.
yeah. But that's nice. Maybe a little down. It's really cool, all the things that God can do, right? He can break those barriers. He can give you a new life, and he can create relationships with the people around you. But you can't do that unless you accept the offer that God has done. He searches and seeks us out. But we have to accept the offer. We have to go to him. He'll look for us, and he'll send after us. But we have to accept it. So tonight, I want to do that. If you don't have God in your life, if you're not adopted into God's family, I pray that you'll consider doing that tonight, that you accept God into your life, that you'll be adopted into this amazing family.